Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Thanks for joining us here on one of the world's biggest gun talk programs as we chat with the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting. Well, today's topic might seem a little dark. We're talking about selling guns, which is awful to some people, and dying, which is pretty much awful to everybody. But there's a reason. We're going to talk about the late gun writer Dick Metcalf's gun collection, and we're going to talk about the bigger question of what you should do before you die with your guns, and unfortunately, if you pass, some of the things that the folks left behind can do with your guns. So hopefully the goal here today is push you to make the necessary arrangements before it's too late and make sure your guns go to a good home. Well, before we do that, before I talk to Roy Huntington, a couple of housekeeping notes. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I know I harp on that, but that's how you can support what we're doing. And we'll talk to Roy right after this word from our great sponsor, Armasight. Step up your game with Armasight's cutting-edge thermal and night vision monoculars. Built for hunters, tactical pros, and outdoor enthusiasts who demand clarity and reliability in any environment. Discover the performance and durability trusted by hunters and professionals worldwide. Gear up now at Armasight.com. Stop looking, start seeing. Hey there, Roy.
It's that time again.
It is. It is. And I appreciate you joining us once again for the Guns Magazine podcast. Of course, you're our unofficial co-host, and folks really like you.
That's better than being a lot of things, huh?
This is true. This is absolutely true. But hey, let's not listen to those letters we get occasionally. But today is, okay, out of the gate, I guess you could call it kind of a somber topic, but we'll have fun with it, even though that's a little bit of whistling as you're walking past the graveyard kind of thing. But it's a very timely topic. And before we got started recording, you pointed out more reasons than I even thought of why it's a timely topic. So the genesis of this was kind of our friend Dwight Van Brunt from Sportsman's Legacy Auctions. He's got a big new gun collection. We're recording this on Friday. It'll go up later today. And I think the site goes live, what'd you say, on like Sunday. He's auctioning off gun writer Dick Metcalf's gun collection, which is pretty extensive. And we'll put a link to Dwight's company down in the bottom. But on the bigger scale, a lot of folks we know, more than we want to think, have used Dwight's services, and even you, Roy. And fortunately, you're still with us. But
it's true.
We're going to talk about that. And my goal here is let's keep it light, but let's also convince folks that we're all guys of a certain age, most of us anyway. We need to be thinking about this stuff, and we don't want to, but we need to. So Dwight sold some of your guns. Why in the world? I know when you tell people, I'm going to sell this gun, what? What's wrong with you? Are you dying? And you have, I really like your attitude on getting rid of stuff. So I've talked.
First of all, I need to clarify something. Dwight's company, sportsmanslegacy.com, yes. He doesn't auction guns. This one that's going live is Elite Collectors, collectorseliteauctions.com, is hosted by Gunbroker. And so Dwight will put guns up there. So technically they're the auction house. Normally Dwight actually has a very comprehensive, excellent website where he sells guns that are given to him. So I know what you mean though, because when I tell people, well, I sold 5 guns or I sold 10 guns, they always say, I never sell guns. If I buy it, I keep it forever. Yeah. Well, I always say, well, then you're an idiot, you know? I mean, because to me, they're like gold coins. I mean, do you keep a gold coin forever because it's this precious, wonderful thing and you love it and you just want to have it? Or is this something that you can use to make money, you can use to save money for a while? To me, just like the old West Cowboys, you know, they always say, or a lot of them used to say, I look upon my gun as a meal ticket. And so if you need to sell that gun to buy a new horse or that's it. Because you know what? And I know a lot of people don't believe me, but there's always another gun out there.
What?
I know. I know. I mean,
Well,
I get it. Yeah, if you're a collector and you found the holy grail of Colt single actions and you want to just hug it and sleep with it for 5 years or something, go ahead.
Yeah.
But you have to be prepared that you're going to have to sell it someday.
Or you're going to make your family sell it. And the sad thing is, a lot of times stuff, if folks haven't prepared, and that's one of the topics we're talking about, what usually happens, the wife calls the best friend, he comes over, they end up selling guns for pennies on the dollar, or take it to a pawn shop or whatever, and the guns lose a lot of value, especially if they are guns that have some kind of premium on them. So you need to plan that stuff. Even if you don't plan on getting rid of your guns, you at least need to plan on the fact that someday, I hate to say it, we're all mortal. We're all going to shuffle off this mortal coil. And the more you prepare for that day, and I got to say, I've started doing that, and it's comforting, I think, anyway. It's like, when things go, because I don't know, my kids would probably keep a gun as a keepsake, but they're not shooters. I failed in that regard. They're great, but they're not really avid shooters. So they'll want an heirloom keepsake, but other than that, it's just stuff to them. So I want to make sure that whoever's left behind gets maximum value out of my guns, because I have a few that are worth something. So planning, and that's the big part that is hard for folks. But you were the one that really inspired this, and I was kind of leaning this way anyway. But this is actually a bigger question than just guns, and I got to be careful in my personal life talking about good friends, but some folks want to keep everything almost hoarder-like. And I discovered years ago, and you've encouraged this, is the more stuff you have, the more complicated your life is. And frankly, my life doesn't need to get any more complicated. So I've gone through this process of I'm letting go stuff that isn't day-to-day critical for me, or a gun that I absolutely positively would mourn it going somewhere else. But otherwise, stuff needs to move on and go to a good new home, and my life's simpler. So that's kind of my soapbox moment there. And, talk about that, because you've got more stuff and certainly more guns than I've got. And I know you've been going through that process for a while.
I think it's important that people realize that having to sell off your firearm archive is a significant job.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 1 or 2 or 3 guns, okay, like you say, take it down to the gun store, let them give you not what it's worth, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a significant collection, 20 guns, 30 guns, 50 guns, something like that, even if they're just simply acquisitions, that there's no rhyme or reason, like you don't collect Winchesters or you don't, do something like that. If it's just a cross section of guns, where you're going to have Ruger single actions and Glocks and SIGs and, maybe a lever gun, who knows what you have there. But I'll bet you when you add it up that you've got 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000 worth of guns there. And so why would you not pay attention to how to properly dispose of that asset that you have,
Yep.
And I will tell you that sometimes it's difficult to sell that first or second or third gun. But as Brent said, when the things in your life start to go away, it really does simplify things. And you've got cash in your hand, and you can put that cash to work. I mean, I'll tell you what, it is really a fair trade. I think there's several secrets here. The first thing is do something, be prepared. And I don't think it's bad to prepare and think about it. We're all going to die. We're dying right now. As the Stoics were famous for saying, is that dying isn't unexpected. You've been dying your whole life.
Yep.
And so don't be afraid to face that. I got a call from Tiger McKee's widow after Tiger passed unexpectedly. Now, needless to say, she was pretty overwhelmed by everything, right? So suddenly she has this property, this shooting school, this huge shop, packed to the brim with Tiger's collections of everything that he had. She needs the money, and now what? And there was nothing in place. So we've had similar things happen. Mike Venturino died unexpectedly. Mark Hampton died unexpectedly. In the case of the recent auction that Dwight's running, it's Dick Metcalf. You may recognize his name as a writer, mostly guns and ammo, shooting times, that kind of stuff. So, I'm sure in Dick's situation, his collection was probably a lot of guns. I mean, this could easily have gone into the hundreds. And people say, oh, I'll just sell them. It's like, think about this for a minute now, okay? First of all, can you take a good picture? Probably not. Okay?
Yeah.
When was the last time you actually wrote up something like that for sale? How do you describe it? What do you say? What's the right verbiage? What would other shooters recognize? What would a collector understand about this gun? How do you describe its condition? What are the terms used to describe the condition, that are consistent among people who buy and sell guns? Do you have an outlet to sell the guns other than your buddy Bill, who said he might want to buy it, or the local gun store, who will give you about 40 to 50% of what the real value is?
Yeah.
And I can't disparage that because they're in business to make money, but still. So if you say, well, I'll just take them down to the gun store, that's fine. But if you were going to get $50,000 for your guns at retail, now you're actually going to get $25,000 for your guns. So you need to think about that. Do you have the skills to open up a gunbroker.com account? Do you know how to manage that account? Do you know how to post the pictures and how to write what's there? Do you know how to respond to people who want to buy the gun? Do you know how to ship your gun? Do you know the rules and regulations about that? And so let's be smart here. Don't just in the back of your brain, oh, I'll just sell my guns, or my wife will sell my guns when I die. No, she will more than likely be overwhelmed and have no idea of the value of your guns. Yes, I know smart people, they have notebooks and stuff, and they have pictures and their serial numbers and history of the gun and what they're worth, and that is absolutely solid gold. And you should definitely do that. But the reality of it is I think you should have a broker. And in the sense of Dwight Van Brunt, Dwight is my broker. He takes incredible photos. He knows exactly how to write the guns up. He has multiple resources that he can post the information on, including collectors. I mean, sometimes he'll just call somebody up and he'll say, hey, Frank, I've got this gun. Would you like it? Okay, we're done. Yeah. He's a bit like having an attorney on your side. He knows the ropes. You're his client. You're important to him. He takes care of you. It works. And yep. I recommend that you do what I do and that I've been slowly selling my collectible guns over the years. And Dwight handles everything. And so you ship your guns to him, and then you get a check once a month for whatever sells. And it's seamless. And it is worth a percentage, which is, Absolutely. Of course, Dwight has to, collect a percentage. But trust me, it's a much better deal than what the local Guns and Suds store is going to give you.
Yep. Well, I could. It's exactly like what we went through. We had to liquidate my parents' estate. They moved from Indiana to Florida, so they took what they wanted, but they had a whole house full of stuff. And by the time they moved, we kind of ended up needing to take care of that. So what we did was call an auction company. They took a good cut of what was sold, but I didn't have to do anything. I had to open the door for them. Yeah. And they came in and they took care of even stuff we figured we'd have to rent a dumpster and throw out. They sold it, or they bought it themselves and they sell, online. They're experts at that. You hold up a mason jar. Oh, well, that's a such and such 2-time 1927. Oh, I thought it was just a piece of glass I was going to throw in the trash. So you got to pay for that expertise. But the older I get in life, the more I recognize there are a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with complicated subjects like guns and gun collections, you really just need to pay an expert to do it, and don't begrudge the money they charge, because you're, as we've said many times, like with gunsmiths, you're paying for their expertise. You're not paying necessarily for, he worked 1 hour on this gun collection. He's got he or she's got a lifetime of expertise. And that, like you said, Roy, that network of folks, you may not even realize, or your wife may not realize, this single action, that's just an old cool gun somebody want to put on the mantle. Well, an expert might go, oh no, that's a, Razin Frazin special that, only 7 were made. Yeah. So suddenly, it goes from a $150 gun to, now this is a $5,000 gun. And you wouldn't have known that, or your survivors wouldn't have known that, if you just took it down to the gun store and got 50% of that $150.
Well, plus, especially if either A, the collector himself doesn't know about the value of the guns, or B, the odds of the wife, mother, brother, sister who's now suddenly has to deal with this stuff, chances are very good they probably don't know about it either.
Yep.
And it's one thing to sell your dead grandpa's gold Buick, but it's another thing to open up the gun safe and look at what's in there. And unless you really know what's in there, as you say, you really need a professional. I have people call me, the people in that business. Dwight's talked to me a few times. Hey, Roy, I've got this and this and this. I think it's this. Do you have any opinion? And I'll say, well, yeah, actually, I think it's this and this and this and this. And a lot of times, Dwight ends up discovering just what you're talking about, which is like, wow, this is actually a significant and important, gun. And I think if you go on Gunbroker, look at the what's the big auction house? I'm blanking out. Rock Island
Auctions.
Yeah, Rock Island. You go on their website and look at the way they describe guns. This important first generation Winchester shows significant provenance. The bore has light frosting, the 98%, original charcoal blue. Well, chances are pretty good you don't know that stuff, and you can't write like that,
Yep.
And you don't know what value to ask for, because there's a fine line between, well, I'm going to ask $50,000, and no one will ever buy it,
Yep.
And so when you find that, this is as much as you can get for it, but it's also not too much that it won't sell. And that's where it takes the experts to do. And so, like you did with the auction, you can certainly send your collection to an auction house or something like that. But I think working intimately with a broker like Dwight, they know you, they get to know your guns, they understand what your plans are. And so, unlike a lot of people, like I haven't put my whole collection up at once, because I'm still using, I write articles, we make videos. But what I'm doing now is that when I realize that I am really done with this gun, at this point now, it's going to sit in my safe.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yep.
That's like putting, I don't know, $3,000 in a drawer and then just letting it sit there.
Exactly.
Why not put that money to work, you know? And so, just the other day I got a call. A friend of mine had passed away unexpectedly, kind of a younger guy, in his early 60s. His wife called me up and she said, Roy, I'm overwhelmed. I have no idea what to do. And I happen to be pretty familiar with his guns. And she said, I absolutely don't know what to do. And I've got these guns. I need them. I need money. And can you help me? And it's like, well, I can't help her. I'm not going to take this on, right, to try to sell all these guns. I have to say, I've really never seen that successfully work unless you have the inherited 4 or 5 guns you need to sell. People who send me a list, here's my father's guns, and there's 57 guns, right? And a lot of them are like 22 broken grips with a bent barrel, right?
I've gotten some of those lists too.
Yeah.
What's this worth?
Yeah, what's this worth?
Really?
And they say, could you help me sell these? And it's like, I tell them, I mean, I don't see anything that I want. I mean, I'd be happy to send your list to 2 or 3 friends I have.
Yeah.
And so that is a huge waste of time and frustrating, and they don't know what to do. And so now somebody buys a gun and they want, now what do you do with it? How do you pack it? How do you ship it? How do you get paid? Right. So I actually hooked this person up with a local guy I know who deals in the local community. Because that way it's a little faster. He's like, call, hey guys, I've got these guns. Who wants what? That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it was just like, whew, a huge weight off her shoulder. And within the next 2 or 3 weeks, she was getting cash coming in, which is what she needed.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I feel like we're beating something into the ground here, but you may be someone who's a doubting Thomas. But I'm amazed at the people who don't want to pay a percentage to someone to do this work.
Yep.
And as you said, you pay a plumber because you can't do plumbing, Yeah. And so if your chances are good, you're not a person who sells guns. And so you need to find someone who does that, like sportsmanslegacy.com, which you should go there. If you're listening to this or watching this, I mean, take a minute after the show, go, because Dwight has probably like the best I've ever seen. His website is beautifully done. It's comprehensive. It's put together in categories. The guns are well presented. Prices are fair, but not cheap, and that is what you need to do with your collection. And guys and ladies, you need to start selling them now. Yep. You really do. Yep. Because otherwise, when you're gone or you get hit by a truck tomorrow, now what? Does your wife even know the combination to your safe? I've had that happen. They say, oh, yeah, I don't even know the combination to the safe. So, yeah.
I've told my beloved what the combination is, but her plan... and I'm one of these guys. I've got documents and an actual database of all my passwords to all my stuff. I don't know if she remembers the master password, and of course it's written down in a safe place. But I don't know if she, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I mean, and it's natural, most people are going to go, oh my. Her plan is at least she's going to call you, Roy, and she'll call Ken Campbell, my buddy, because he knows the combination of my gun safe, which right there, that's a great honor to know combination to a friend's gun safe. But otherwise, she would just stand there and look at this giant box and go, I don't know what's in there. I don't know how to get in there. I need some help. And one other thing I was going to mention, Roy, you were talking about, paying people to do things. If you don't want to pay somebody to look at your gun collection for selling, at least you can probably find somebody qualified locally that'll do an insurance appraisal. And that way, everything is much more documented. And if something happens, your house burns down, I know somebody whose house just burned down, and he's going through that. Many of his guns are a total loss. I hope he had an insurance appraisal done and stored in a safe place so he can say, I had this and I had this and I had this. So you're paying for something you'll get value of now in a worst case scenario. And then in the ultimate worst case scenario where you pass, at least your survivors would have a list of, he's got a Gratzen Fratzen Master Blaster 5000, serial number such and such. And that's a lot better than, like you said, 22 with a broken handle thingy.
Yeah. I think
what in the world is that?
If the biggest thing, if you learn anything today, is go to where you keep your guns with a notepad and write down what they are. I mean, and don't say blue revolver 38, okay? Smith & Wesson Model 10-7, 4-inch barrel, fixed sights, 95% condition blue, serial number this. I paid $450 for it. Right? Just having that list would be a tremendous asset. Oh, first of all, it feels good too, because it's like, whew, okay, I did that. It's off my shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the process is actually pretty simple. Is that and let's use us because we're adults and let's talk about the reality of life. If you get hit by a truck tomorrow and Shirley calls me up, what I'm going to do is then introduce her to Dwight.
Exactly.
Explain to Dwight who she is, what's going on, what her expectations are, and then I would help at that point. And so what would happen then if you're in a situation like that is, depending on your collection, Dwight's willing to actually drive across country and pick up significant collections.
Yeah.
But if you've got 20 guns or 50 guns or something like that, what you would do is you would ship them to Dwight. And depending on where you live, you may have to do that through an FFL. So there will be a certain amount of expense, but like doing business anywhere, it's going to cost some money to turn this hardware into cash.
Yep.
So then Dwight gets the guns, and then you give him any notes you have. Like, remember that list I just told you to make, right?
Yep.
This was Grandpa's gun that he used to kill Bonnie and Clyde. Whatever it is, make sure you tell it. So now Dwight photographs the guns, and then he does something that's really important because people say, "Oh, I've got my Glock, and my Glock is my favorite gun." I got it. That's wonderful, but it's a commodity. Okay, it's the same as a tomato and they're everywhere. They're inexpensive. Chances are very good Dwight's going to list guns like that on Gunbroker for whatever the median price is, so it sells, right? Now, if you have a real collectible gun, Colt single actions or whatever, significant and important guns, then he photographs them beautifully. He does that extensive description like I told you about Rock Island Auctions, which you can read on his website. You should go to his website and just look at it to understand what it is we're talking about. And imagine in your brain, okay, that could be one of my guns sitting there like that, being seen by hundreds of thousands of people. So then he writes them up, and then he puts them for sale on his website in categories and stuff like that. And so it's a huge weight off a wife's, or husband's, I suppose, shoulders. And then you just sit back and wait for the checks to come in, which can take time. That's the other thing is people say, well, I need these guns sold now. I need the money right now. Well, sorry, that's not how it works.
Doesn't work that way.
No. Yes, you might be able to sell a few of your Glocks and some of your revolvers to people who knew your husband, who, hey, you won't want Pete's guns, Actually, that's something important to remember, too, because there's a lot of people that are really, really vulnerable at that point. So if you suffer an unexpected loss and you have this safe full of guns, call all of your husband's friends and say, Bill passed unexpectedly. I have these guns. I need the money. Would you like to buy anything? I know I've sure bought my share of guns I didn't need at all.
Yeah.
In those situations, because then you can always sell those later. That's what exactly. I do. So I don't know what else to say with this other than people who just reflexively say, "Oh, I never sell a gun after I buy one." It's like, okay, but look at your gun safe and how many guns do you have in there that you haven't fired in 10 years?
Yeah.
Probably a lot, or some, or one. And if so, do it. Sell it. As a matter of fact, sell a couple now. Show your wife what's going on. Show her how you're doing it. This is my gun. I'm going to send it to a guy like Dwight, right? And then go through that process. And so now it's not this big scary beast to her.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you die, she looks and she goes, I know what to do.
Yeah. And just talk about it. Two quick points I wanted to make. One was a technical point that Dwight, when I interviewed him a long time ago, back in the dark ages when this was an audio only podcast. And one thing that I took away was provenance. And that's a fancy word that means documentation. And like you said, it doesn't have to be this is the gun that killed Bonnie and Clyde. It may just be my grandpa bought this at the feed store in Gwenville, Indiana, and, killed chickens or killed weasels at the chicken house. Your family likes to know that stuff, and it may in certain cases increase the value. So anything that's unusual, because it amazed me, I think of the guns in my safe, well, they're just guns, right? Some of them are nice, some of them are commodities, but several of them have been on covers of Guns Magazine. That increases their value. There's somebody out there that'll go, oh, I really want that gun. And with our 70th anniversary issue in January, we had several folks that commented about the guns that were on the cover, the Great Western revolvers. And so those guns are going to be worth more because people are like, oh, those were on cover number 1 of Guns Magazine. So document the provenance, even if it's just grandpa's shotgun that he killed weasels with. And I think that brings us full circle, Roy, that, when we were talking about getting rid of guns, I've thought about this. And again, I've got some friends that are like, I would sooner sell my children than sell a firearm.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's your life. Do what you want. But think about this. And I wish I could remember who said it. I've heard it a lot of places, but somebody actually told me this, is we don't really own guns. We have them. We take care of them. They pass through our hands, especially if they're a good gun. So enjoy your gun, hold it, fondle it, do whatever you want. But if, like Roy said, if it's set in the safe for 5 years and the only thing you use it for is to dust off and then put it back in the safe, start thinking about maybe somebody else would like that gun. And money doesn't buy you happiness, but it certainly buys a seat on the bus. And you can always turn it around.
Let me, if you don't mind, let me add just a couple things here. That this auction of Dick Metcalf's guns, I think will be important because Dick has been in this industry since the 60s. Mm-hmm. And I knew him, and I happen to know that he had a lot of pretty significant guns. And as you say, guns that you would recognize. It's like, hey, this was on the cover of Guns and Ammo magazine. This is that fill in the blank. I bought one of the guns from Dwight that Dick owned, and there is a certain, it's a pleasure to have that provenance. I know when I sell a gun through Dwight, I always write a letter to the buyer. Thank you for buying my gun. This Smith & Wesson revolver serial number, this appeared in my articles off and on to show holster fits. I used to shoot it regularly. I taught my daughter how to shoot a revolver with this gun, so I appreciate that someone who's interested now owns it. Yep. Thanks again, Roy Huntington. Well, see, that's really important, and I have heard back from people saying, "Gee, Roy, this really makes it even more important for me to have this gun.
Cool.
I appreciate it. I take care of it, and so." That it makes everybody feel good, and then you have a check you can take to the bank. So, you're not in the business of selling guns, and that's perfectly legal. You could sell your collection. There's nothing illegal about that. Okay. Do it as whatever's legal in your state, of course, but don't be afraid of that. So I recommend Sunday you go to collectorseliteauctions.com. To see at least a part of the Dick Metcalf collection. I recommend you go to sportsmanslegacy.com to see what Dwight's business is and to see how that's managed, because I think it might enthuse you to participate in that. And if so, all it takes is a phone call or an email, and that gets that ball rolling. So okay. So don't wait.
Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Again, this may be a little dark, but you're absolutely right. And I am a attempted practitioner of Stoic philosophy, and you're absolutely right. You started dying the day you were born. So hopefully we all live very long and productive lives on from today. But, gun owners tend to be realistic people. So acknowledge your own mortality. Consider your guns and their place in your long-term plans, and then take care of all your business and enjoy life however long it lasts.
Well, think about this is if you're doing really well and you have a collection you're really proud of, for whatever reason, and then you die unexpectedly, and now you have no idea what's going to happen to your collection, and maybe it's going to get sold for pennies on the dollar. And so personally, I would rather be a good steward of this collection, in it's like the billionaires who give money away to good causes rather than dying and then they have no control over where it went. In this situation, if you have an important collection or important guns in your collection, it would be nice for you to be able to make sure that they go to appropriate people and appropriate museums or whatever, places, because then you've been a good steward there. These guns weren't just lost.
So, on that point, my wife is on the board of the local historical society, and they called me about a year ago. Somebody, and I totally forget what the gun is. I looked at it, left a gun leaning up against the front door of their office. That's how they donated it. And really? So it was an old muzzle loader, and I forget it was some type of military, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's great that they donated, but maybe you need to be a little more proactive than that. So. Oh,
you're right. And if anybody has any specific questions, please post it in the comments because I promise I will watch and see what people say, and Brent will watch it. And then that way we can steer you to whatever information you need to have, and make sure your wife knows the combination to your safe, for crying out loud.
Yep. And we'll end it on as a certain tennis shoe manufacturer says, just do it.
Just do it.
So, well, Roy, thanks again. Hopefully folks got a lot out of this, and hopefully we spurred one or two of you on to actually making some of these efforts to make sure your gun collection goes to a good home. And like I said, hopefully, though, we're all going to live a long and prosperous life, and we will see you, Roy, and the rest of our fans on a future episode of the Guns Magazine podcast.
Fingers crossed.
Had a great chat today with Roy Huntington, and I hope our talk inspired you to actually take the steps necessary today to make sure your gun collection ends up where you want it to end up. And maybe inspire you to sell one or two of those safe queens that haven't moved in years, and you can have a little folding cash in your pocket. But whatever you do it today. Before we go, a couple of quick reminders. Make sure you like and subscribe. I know I harp on that, but that's how you can pay us for the great content we provide. So like and subscribe, and make sure you visit our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com and AmericanCop.com. We like to point out that AmericanCop.com is not just for the cops and the law enforcement officers. It's for all prepared Americans, like we say, normal Earth people who just want to be ready in case things go sideways. So American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com and AmericanCop.com. And oh yeah, there's that Guns Magazine thing. I think it's a pretty fair magazine, and you can read a lot of our content and special online-only content at gunsmagazine.com. If you're going to buy anything, you want a subscription, or you want to buy Roy's latest book, The Insider, or John Connor's Odd Angry Shot, go to fmgpubs.com. You can also buy them on Amazon, but I like to send folks to fmgpubs.com for the latest and greatest in our special interest publications and subscriptions to our great magazines. And of course, we've got to acknowledge our great sponsor, Armasight. Step up your game with Armasight's cutting-edge thermal and night vision monoculars. Built for hunters, tactical pros, and outdoor enthusiasts who demand clarity and reliability in any environment. Discover their performance and durability trusted by hunters and professionals worldwide. Gear up now at Armasight.com. Stop looking, start seeing. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody that works so hard here at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, reminding you for another week, now get out there and get shooting.